Interested in learning about wine, but not sure where to start? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Cork and Fizz Guide to Wine podcast. I'm your host, Haley Bowman, and I'm so glad you're here. I'm a wine enthusiast turned wine educator and founder of the Seattle-based wine tasting business, Cork and Fizz. It is my goal to build your confidence in wine by making it approachable and lots of fun. You can expect to learn everything from how to describe your favorite wine to what to pair with dinner tonight, and so much more. Whether you're a casual wine sipper or a total cork dork like myself, this podcast is for you. So grab yourself a glass and let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to the Cork and Fizz Guide to Wine podcast. So excited to have you here. Today, you'll be listening to part 2 of my interview with Erik Segelbaum. Of course, if this is your very first episode that you're hearing from me, you might want to listen to part 1 of this interview with Erik back in episode 110. And then you can come back to listen to this one. Or I don't care what you do. You listen to them out of order. Have fun with it. As a reminder, Erik is an advanced sommelier with the Court of Master Sommeliers, Food and Wine Magazine 2019 Sommelier of the Year, and 2020 Wine Enthusiast 40 Under 40 Tastemaker, who has over 30 years of experience in the fine dining industry. He's the founder of Good Somm, a luxury lifestyle wine club, and co-owner of Amalfi Beverage Company, a luxury canned cocktail brand. He's also editor and journalist for most major consumer and trade publications, including Food and Wine Magazine, among many other job titles and accolades. In this episode, we're going to be focusing on wine tariffs. What are they? Why are they hurting the American wine industry? And specifically because of our 3-tier system, how is it affecting us and not the countries that we're putting the tariffs on? Beyond the tariffs, we're also going to be talking about some wine trends that Erik is excited to see becoming more popular and his top recommendation for a bottle to bring to your next party or get together with friends, amongst many more things. All right, let's get into it. So I want to bring us to the next question, and I'm like, how can I tie this in? I think this is actually a good tie-in so we're talking about things that people don't understand in the wine world, which is so many things. And I feel like wine is one of those things that, like, for some reasons, you feel like you need to know about it despite the fact you've never done anything with it. The example I always love to give is, like, if you threw me on a basketball court and were like, here, play a game of basketball, I'd be like, the hell? I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I can't dribble a ball. Like, we don't expect that. But for some reason, we expect with wine. So a lot of times when things come up in popular culture that have to do with wine, I think a lot of people pretend they know what they're talking about because they don't want to feel dumb. I mean, we've all done it. And so one of the things lately that has come up is wine tariffs. And so I wanted to have you explain, first of all, what are wine tariffs and why are they coming up in conversation right now? Why should we be concerned about them as a consumer? And then why is the industry concerned about them?
Oh boy, I'm going to try to distill a 2-hour lecture now.
Yeah. Again, sorry, Cliff Notes version, please.
No. Okay, so I'm going to skip why we're in these various trade disputes. You know, it started in 2019 with Airbus and the Airbus-Boeing dispute, and then also the DST or Digital Services Tax, which was otherwise known as GAFA, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple. I'm going to skip that, and I'm just going to ask everyone listening to trust the fact that the U.S. is absolutely involved in some legitimate trade disputes, specifically with the EU, where the EU is unfairly subsidizing and or unfairly subsidizing EU businesses to give them unfair competitive advantage over American businesses and or unfairly taxing American companies like Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple. By the way, side note, I got no problem with those companies paying all the tax in the world because they don't pay much tax. So, like, I don't have a problem with that conceptually. But at the end of the day, there are absolutely problematic and unfair tariff and taxation problems, and the EU is one of the more problematic trading blocs with the US in some facets. China is another one. So trust me when I tell you that tariffs can be a legitimate tool to resolve discriminatory trade practices. With that in mind, what is happening now has nothing to do with any of that. So there are 2 major types of tariffs: retaliatory tariffs and blanket tariffs. Retaliatory tariffs are what America does to when Airbus is being unfairly subsidized over Boeing and America puts a retaliatory tariff in. The problem is the current and former administration, same person, doesn't understand how to use tariffs as an effective economic tool. So when we were in a dispute in 2019 and early 2020 with aircraft manufacturing company and digital services companies, the threat was, okay, we're going to go after wine because that's an emotional attack. what the government did not understand, and I can tell you this because I have sat not only with Congress people and senators on both sides of the aisle. I mean, I spent weeks, I used to live on Capitol Hill. I spent weeks talking to left and right, no matter their political affiliation. Most people didn't understand this. And what's worse is the US Trade Representative, that is the agency responsible for trade and tariffs, did not know about the 21st Amendment and the federally mandated three-tier system. By that, I mean, they did not know that by federal law, all foreign alcohol must be imported, sold through a distributor, then sold to on or off-premise channels. They did not know that by federal law, it is illegal for a foreign entity to own an importer or distributor in this country. They did not know that by federal law, those tariffs that they imposed on European, in 2020, it was on certain types of European wine and whiskey and stuff like that. They did not know that by federal law, American companies, largely small businesses, were paying those tariffs. By the way, the 21st Amendment of the Constitution is written, those original tariffs did $250 million of economic damage domestically. Multiple distributors and importers closed. Multiple restaurants and retailers couldn't make margins because of the tariffs. But ultimately, that got passed along to consumers. For every dollar of European alcohol, every dollar spent on European alcohol, it generates about $4.50 through the three-tier system into the American economy, only made by American businesses.
Just a quick reminder, if you are not on my mailing list yet, what are you waiting for? I would love for you to join. When you do, you'll get a free shopping guide that has 15 of my favorite wines under $15. Head to corkandfizz.com, scroll down to the bottom, and there'll be a little section where you can join the mailing list. I send out a weekly newsletter filled with wine tips, recommendations, special offers, and so much more. Now, let's get back to the show.
So that's the tariff foundation. So those are retaliatory tariffs. So what was on the table recently, and it changes like every freaking day, is somewhat retaliatory tariffs. The other tariffs, and this is what like the Liberation Day, and when was that, last month, where the Trump administration basically just blanket tariffed 200 different countries and trading blocks. So before that, when the tariffs went through on, and let's call them what they are, they're taxes, on Canada and Mexico. The reason that Trump cited border security and fentanyl were because that allows him to invoke an act from passed in Congress in, I want to say 1973 or 1977, that gives the president the option to impose blanket tariffs on a trading bloc because of a threat to national security without Congress having to approve. That's why he strategically said that those were the reasons. And do you know what the result of? So the tariffs on Mexico got punted. The tariffs on Canada did not. I think they are now. But the response from Canada, because every province is provincially owned liquor, was to remove all American alcohol from their shelves. That has already done possibly, I don't have the stats, but I can tell you if that lasts for a year, that is billions of dollars of economic damage to America. Like the Kentucky Distillers Association. By the way, bourbon isn't just from Kentucky, it's from anywhere in the US, but majority of the bourbon's from Kentucky. They estimated that 1 year of that does $9 billion of economic damage just in Kentucky to forklift operators, truck drivers, warehouse workers, corn farmers, farm equipment salespeople, warehouse workers, the distilleries, their employees, right, all of that. $9 billion a year of economic damage if Canada does not put American whiskey back on its shelves. So these are really big problems. The Liberation Day situation was so the foundation of all this is tariffs on alcohol by law hurt Americans and pretty much exclusively Americans. Also, based on relationship, first of all, a farmer in Languedoc or Baden, Germany, doesn't have any influence in EU Parliament. So if they're losing business in America, they don't really have any ability to influence what the EU is doing with Airbus or steel or corn or any of that other stuff, right? But also because of the relationships that America has had, these importers have, these longstanding relationships, and because of the three-tier system, in order to stay competitive, a lot of these European companies are selling to American importers at a way lower cost than if they were selling to other nations, like our biggest trading competitors, like China, the number one consumer of wine in the world. When a French winery, is an example, and I can tell you this from speaking to winemakers, when a French winery has been selling their wine to an American importer at, let's say, €3 a bottle, because once it gets imported, landed, and you go through the three-tiered system, that becomes $15.99 retail on the shelf, and their wine is €12 a bottle in France, so they're trying to stay competitive. The moment that tariffs make it impossible and they lose that business, guess what? They get to turn to China and sell it to China for €7 a bottle, because China is champing at the bit to get these wines. Like Provence Rosé is a perfect category for that. And now it's like, sorry, America, the only reason I was taking a loss on this was because of our relationship, but now that our relationship has been forcibly crumbled, I'm going to make more money by selling it to China. This is business. So those tariffs hurt American consumers the most. They hurt American small businesses the most. So the Liberation Day tariffs were meant to correct trading deficits. Well, the problem there was that should have been a 10-month process of the USTR investigating country by country what specific products there were and imposing reciprocal tariffs on those products. What those tariffs did were not that. For one, we tariff nations with which we have a trade surplus, which means they have a trading deficit with us, like Australia, like Hong Kong, right? We have a trade surplus with them, yet we tariff them claiming a trade deficit. South Africa, we basically destroyed the poor South African wine economy. They've been struck by the rand collapsing. Then in COVID, the South African government made it illegal to buy, sell, or consume alcohol, which meant that during COVID, South African wineries couldn't legally export their wines to the US. It was illegal for them to sell, even to an exporter that was going to bring it into the US.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
How have I never heard of that? During
Don't even
COVID,
get
they
me.
just made
They,
alcohol
for
illegal.
about 2 years, it was illegal because the idea was if people drank, they might make bad decisions, which might cause the spread of COVID. So for many wineries, they couldn't even legally get their wine trucked to a dock, loaded onto a container, and export it, right? And now we have 35% tariffs on South Africa, which is just poor South Africa. But the point is, these tariffs were meant to correct trade deficits. They're blanket tariffs that don't address the specific trade issues. And it's basically bullying and strong arming, and it's economically destructive. And I don't have statistics yet, but I can tell you that the long-term economic damage of these current tariffs that could change any day are insane. But these tariffs, absent a few countries like South Africa that are really just being totally screwed by this, they really hurt American small businesses, importers, distributors, restaurants, and retailers. And the numbers are staggering. We're talking about 350,000 restaurants and retailers. We're talking about over 4,500 importers and distributors. And then their thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands of employees across the board, aggregated millions of employees. But the
Wow.
last thing I'm going to say, it's not the last thing. The last thing I'm going to say is that so this idea that, okay, that's just great. People will enjoy domestic wines more. It's better for the domestic economy. It's not for multiple reasons. First of all, let me talk about the economic reasons first. American wineries require the 3-tier distribution system by law to go to market. They're required to be sold. Now, they don't need an importer, but they're still required to use a distributor. Distributors make most of their margins on the imported wines. Not only that, when distributors are also carrying, they either have to pay the tariffs or reduce their margin. So either way, they're covering the cost. Because if I'm a restaurant buyer, which I was, and I've been pouring this American Sauvignon Blanc that I'm buying for $9.99 a bottle, and I'm pouring for $10 a glass, and now suddenly it's $14 a bottle because of margin issues, you're going to lose that placement. So what do you have to do? You have to absorb cost, right? So these distributors and importers, they either have to lose money absorbing the tariffs or pass it along. Either way, their cash flow is reduced. And if a business is not healthy, they're not buying as much. So if I'm a distributor, that now not only is my cash flow reduced, but because the tariffs change based on whatever Trump's mood is from day to day, there's no certainty there. Therefore, I have to hold even more cash in reserves so that I can afford to buy product to sell it. That means I'm buying much less domestic wine because I have less cash flow to do that. And my margins are shot on imported wine, so I have much less cash flow to do that. I can name dozens of wineries that lost multiple states of distribution during the last round of tariff because domestic wineries, because their distributors either collapsed or didn't have the cash flow to buy them. The other thing is wine is non-fungible. That means that, first of all, when he said American champagne, Mr. President, there is no such thing as American champagne. But we won't even go down that road. Let's look at any American wine versus a foreign wine. They're not fungible in the fact that a Chablis, you cannot replicate the flavors of Chablis with American Chardonnay no matter how hard you try. Now, that doesn't mean that American Chardonnay can't be and isn't great. But if I'm a Chablis drinker and I want Chablis, that's what I'm drinking. If I love Portuguese wines from the Douro Valley, there is no substitution from that, period. Also, American wineries, based on our labor costs, our health laws, our employee protection laws, our cost of land, just categorically cost more to make and are generally more expensive. There is no domestic sparkling wine that competes with the sparkling wines of Portugal or of southern France or of Spain at the price point and the quality. So the best way I can describe non-fungibility, because some people that are not in the wine industry be like, oh, you poor wine snob, you can't have your Burgundy, you're going to have to support America. Screw the French, support America. Well, that's all well and good, but let me ask you this. If you went to an Italian restaurant and you ordered a tomato and red sauce, and they made that red sauce with strawberries, not tomato, or sorry, tomatoes, spaghetti and red sauce with strawberries, not tomatoes, because strawberries are also, tomatoes and strawberries are both fruit.
Right.
They both have high acid and they're both red, so it's the same thing. Is it though?
Right.
So it hurts consumer choice. It causes wines to be more expensive. It hurts domestic American economy. And let's think about this. You're a consumer. Your $10 a bottle wine, a foreign wine, with a 20% tariff does not become a $12 bottle.
No.
Let me show you how the math models out. Let's say for easy math, it's $10 a bottle from the winery in Europe. By the time it's landed, let's not even talk about the ocean freight and landing costs and all that. Let's just talk about the layers. Actually, no, let's talk about that. By the time that bottle's landed, it's $11.50. So let's call it $12 a bottle landed. Then an importer has to take their margin, not markup, but margin, usually about 30%. So that works out to being about a 48% markup. So that $12 bottle is now, let's call it 18. I'm using like broad numbers here just for easy. That gets sold to a distributor. Distributor's going to take a 40%-ish margin. So now that bottle becomes 26-ish. That wine store is going to take a 50% margin. That bottle now is $39 on the shelf to you as a consumer. It left Europe at $10. It's $39 to you. Now, that's no tariffs. Now let's look at that same $39 bottle. We won't even talk about restaurants.
Right.
That $26 bottle in restaurants can be $75 on the list.
Right.
So $39 on the shelf, $76 in a restaurant. But the winery in Europe only made $10 on it. And that's not profit. That's what they sold it to. Okay. That same $10 bottle lands at $12, but now you have a 20% tariff. So now it's $15. Then you take the layer of the importer's markup, right? That 30 to 35% margin. So, which is close to 50% markup. Now it's 22, call it $23. Now the distributor has to take their layer. Now it's $34. Now the wholesale or the retailer has to take their 50%. And now that bottle that was $32 is now, what is that? $54. And now in a restaurant, that bottle that was $75 is $108. The tariffs are not a 20% tax on the end user. They're a massive tax on the end user. So across the board, I promise you tariffs on alcohol, because of the three-tier system, are bad for consumers, bad for your wallet, bad for consumer choice, bad for American small businesses, period. Tariffs on other things, have at it. You want to settle a trade dispute with Airbus, put a 100% tariff on Airbus planes. I promise you that dispute will be over in 5 minutes. You want to settle a dispute on digital services, tax the French digital services agencies to the same degree, and then boom, that trade dispute is over. Tariffs are an appropriate economic lever if used properly, but alcohol, because of the three-tier system of distribution, are not effective. You want to hurt the French? A French fashion company can own a store in the United States, can bring their purses and clothes in, sell them, and take 100% of that revenue and profit back to France. A French winery can't do that.
Right.
They take a couple dollars of profit back, and the rest of those layers of profit are through the three-tier distribution system.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that. That was super, super informative to understand. And I never even thought about how much it is tied to that three-tier system of like, that's why, I mean, it's not just, oh, we're bringing wine over here like you're bringing any other imported thing, over here. Like, it's not, you don't just get to buy it from the importer directly when it hits the US, right? You have to go through so many different people, and there's so many things that add on to that. Okay, well, I'm going to bring us to a little bit more of I don't know, I don't want to say like chiller topic, but I suppose a chiller topic. I am curious. So we already talked about kind of one trend that you're like, don't love natural wine in the sense of like it being called a natural wine in that. Are there any trends that you see coming up within the last couple years that you are a fan of in the wine world? I love producing this podcast for you every week, but here's the truth. It's not free. That's why I'm so grateful for sponsors like Vochill, a brand I truly love and use myself. Nothing ruins the perfect afternoon out on the sunny patio like a glass of warm wine. And while ice might seem like the only option, it just waters your wine down. That's where Vochill comes in. Vochill is one of my favorite wine gadgets, and I'm super picky when it comes to gadgets. It keeps your wine perfectly chilled in your own glass. No clunky metal tumblers, no ice cubes, just beautifully chilled wine sip after sip. I don't drink wine in the summer without mine, and I've gotten all of my family and friends hooked as well. My mom used hers so much last year that one of her friends ended up getting one of her own as a Christmas gift. Vochill comes in stemmed and stemless styles and tons of colors, perfect for gifting or treating yourself. Head to Vochill.com, that's VOCHILL.com, and use code Cork and Fizz for 15% off your order.
Yes, the general move to easier drinking, brighter, and brighter doesn't necessarily mean higher acid, but also more food-friendly wines. I like that a lot. They're like, we joke about types of wines. There's cocktail wines and gastronomic wines. A cocktail is a standalone thing. You drink your cocktail, you drink your cocktail. That's a very high process wine. And by high process, I don't mean processed. I don't mean chemical. I mean, a high process wine means a lot of oak, a lot of alcohol, a lot of extract, a lot of concentration, right? Versus the gastronomic wines, which are higher acid, less tannin, less alcohol, less extract, more food friendly. I love this movement into the more gastronomic wines. Also, chillable reds. I'm going to say something bold. I am not claiming the trend, but when I opened St. Ansem in DC, that was the last restaurant I was opening for Star. It was my love letter to the wine drinking world. And I opened that wine list with about 850 wines, of which about 120 of them were in my chilled red section. They were stored in the same fridge as Champagne, Chardonnay, Riesling, and Sauv Blanc, and they were served fully cold. I had them in their own section of chillable reds, and then within their relative, like regional sections with a little snowflake next to them to indicate that they were being served fully chilled. All of my Gamay, so all of my Beaujolais, but also domestic Gamay, Frappato from Sicily, Valdigay, any of the lighter, brighter, some unoaked Pinot Noirs, a bunch of Italian red varieties, Tiraldigo and Schiava and all that stuff. Anything that like light, bright, and fresh. I had never seen a chilled red wine section on a wine list at all when I did that. This was 2017, 18. And now I see them all over the place. I'm like, yes, I love that I was able to be a part of the early stage of that. Again, I'm not claiming it. I didn't invent the idea. But the fact that in 2018, that was something that felt risky, and now you could open a chillable red section and it would be like, ooh, super exciting.
Yes. I mean, that would probably sell out faster than your regular red section, I feel like, at this point. Well, I guess it depends on who your consumer is. I'm thinking of other people around my age, like the old millennials,
Older
young Gen
millennials?
Z. Yeah, yeah.
They flew. They flew. Another thing that I'm seeing as a general trend, and we sort of talked about this with millennials and Gen Z, is the willingness to explore means it's never been easier to bring on more exciting wines that aren't the sort of conventional categories. So not the Napa and Sonoma, Cab, Chards, Pinots, River. No disrespect to those, love them. Not Bordeaux, not Tuscany, not Piedmont. The other stuff. I mean, on that same wine list, I had a Bolivian wine section. I had a Mexican wine section. My Israeli wine section like flew off the shelves, which makes me happy because I'm also the ambassador of Wines of Israel for the United States. Baga from like Bairrada in Portugal was flying. Obscure stuff from like regions in Australia people have never heard of were flying. Romanian wines, Moldovan wines, Turkish wines, Cypriot wines. So I love that there's, thanks largely to millennials and Gen Z, there's this willingness to explore Texas wines, Arizona wines, the unusual stuff. But for the Psalms and people who run wine stores or beverage programs, I want to caution you, bring all these great wines in. Do not let them die in a catch-all section. If you're listening and you're a sommelier, if you have any of these words on your list, I promise you, no insult intended, you are being lazy and bad at your job. If you have the words on your list, other, assorted, various, or interesting, those are the categories where the catch-alls that are not only lazy, but where your best wines go to die. I promise there is a way to list that must have the Brock Cellars Valdigay from California. There is a way to list that exciting. Those wines should be these are what I'm most excited about. You know what a great category for those wines is? What we're most excited about. Seriously, sommelier selections.
Yes.
You know what my favorite one? I bet you didn't know. Right?
Yes.
Put them in the front of your list, not in the back. All those weird American wines that are made naturally, that are uncommon stuff, put them up front before your Napa Cabs, before your Sonoma Cabs. Who says that in France it goes Burgundy, Bordeaux, Rhone, everything else? Put your Roussillon and your Southwest and your Jura wines up front. Like, so I'm loving this trend of like being open to what's less familiar, but as Somm, and also same in retailers, put those things front center, loud and proud. You brought them, you bought them, you brought them in. Make those an exciting thing, not an afterthought.
Yeah. Well, and I think consumers would respond. I mean, I know at least for myself and a lot of other wine cork dorks like myself, like I flip to the section that goes other because like that is something I'm interested in. And the advice I give to other people is often like, if you do get the chance to talk to a sommelier, like ask them what's interesting right now. Like when you walk into a wine shop, like what's something that's exciting? What's a bottle that's exciting to you right now? And like, I guarantee that like people are looking for that. And so if you can just title it, and like you said, millennials, Gen Z, we're looking for excitement. We're looking for different. We're looking for something with a story or something, that we haven't had before. title your thing like that, and bam, we're going to know exactly where to look and what to try.
Exactly. I mean, it's our job as wine professionals, whether you're a retail or restaurant, to stay on trend with everything that's happening, to find the next, the newest, the most interesting, or the oldest, or the lesser known, or whatever, and bring that forward to consumers. I mean, as soon as we're done this podcast, I'm going to a Spanish wine tasting, not because I don't understand Spanish wine, but because there's going to be 30 producers there, and I promise I haven't heard of at least half of them. I haven't looked at the list. I'm sure I haven't heard of at least half of them. And for me, that as a sommelier, even though I'm not running restaurant programs, it is important for me to taste these wines to understand, like, oh, hey, I just tried this wine from Penedès. It's cool to know what they're doing in Penedès Beyond Cava. Like, oh, hey, here's a grape I've never heard of. Or like, this is only the third time I've ever tried Ruffete. Super cool. Now I'm starting to build a database of what Ruffete as a variety tastes like. So like, yeah, like it is our job to translate wine to our guests for sure, to make it approachable, to make it exciting, to give you the exposition.
Yeah, no, I love it. Okay, so I know we're getting more past time actually, but I have one last question and then a speed round. Do you have time for that?
Let's do it.
Okay, all right. So my last question, and I'm like almost like a little scared to ask you this just with everything you're already doing, but what's next on the horizon for you?
So Certo, my canned cocktail brand, is next on the horizon. We are not yet on sale. We'll be on sale, if all goes well, late July, early August. We will have a direct-to-consumer site. So if you're listening, that will happen at some point.
Oh, that will actually probably be released by the time this goes out. This is going out the end of June, beginning of July.
We're looking more end of July, early August.
Okay, so it'll be close.
It'll be close. By the time you're listening to this, we should be on sale. With factors that we can control, will be on sale.
Yeah.
There's a hurricane in the Atlantic, or pumpkin spice Palpatine puts 10,000% tariffs on everything from Europe, or there's a war, or an Italian truck driver strike, or any of that stuff. Like, who knows? But in theory, Certo will be on sale, and we will have direct-to-consumer channels. That being said, if you're a buyer, we already have distribution in every single state. Reach out to me. I would love to put this liquid in front of you. I'm going to flex for a minute. Andrea Robinson, she's a master sommelier. She is the global buyer for Delta. She tried these two cocktails and she said, and I quote, "Erik, these are the two best versions of these cocktails I've ever had in my life. Forget the fact that they're in a can. I've never had a better Negroni or Espresso Martini." And I'm not going to lie, that is the common theme from everyone who's tasted them. Also, the packaging is so sexy, but these are luxury products at approachable price points. If you're buying them retail, I don't know exactly what they'll cost. It depends on the 3-tier layers in your specific state and taxes, but roughly they'll be $7 to $8 a can on the shelf. So absolutely approachable for a high quality cocktail. But these are the kind of cocktails that myself as an advanced sommelier would pay a lot of money to drink on a plane, at a concert, at the symphony, on the golf course, even though I don't golf because I'm terrible at golfing. At a beach club, at a club, at a whatever. We might be on retail shelves. We have a lot of major national retailers talking to us about it, but we are not intending to be a retail brand. So if you are a consumer, you might be available in stores, but that is not our push, but we'll definitely have a direct-to-consumer website. If you are a sommelier or a buyer, retail or restaurant, please reach out because I would love to send you samples. I assume you're going to put my contact information in my
Yeah,
Instagram.
absolutely. We'll put all the contact info in the show notes so folks can reach out to you.
So that's part of what's next. There are some other next things happening. For years, I've been lecturing on finance and beverage operation. I am now working on making a national tour for buyers. And by now working, I mean, I'm not going to start thinking about that till Q1 of next year. So at its earliest, maybe Q3 of next year, I'll pick a half a dozen cities where I'll do an all day like financial fluency training seminar in various cities where we have a lot of sommeliers designed for people who have never run a program or have never been trained how to properly run a program. Teaching all about profitability, about cost of goods, about blended contribution margins, about everything, about menu psychology, menu engineering, everything you ever need to know about running a successful beverage program that serves your constituents, your guests, and is also profitable in the right kind of way. So that's probably the next, but tomorrow I could get a call to do a thing and I'll be like, yeah, you know what? Why not? I'm going to do that.
Who knows? Do you have a way, social media, Instagram, Facebook, for folks to kind of follow along so they can see what's coming next for you?
Yes. So a couple things. So my main Instagram is Erik4Wine, ERIK, the number 4. And then if you can't spell wine, we're not friends. But my wine club is Good Somm, at Good Somm, GOODSOMM. Haley, I'm going to do something for your listeners that I don't normally do. So we're a waitlist only because one of the aspects of Good Somm that's hyper important to me is an engaged community. Right now, there's about 600 people and a 1.5 year long waitlist. I will give any of your listeners a secret link where they can skip the waitlist and join Good Somm immediately. I'll send you this information you can put in the show notes.
Okay.
But yeah, the idea behind a Good Somm is this is the place to go when you want you want to continue on your journey. I won't pretend for a minute we're not at a luxury price point. We are. But it's like, where do you go next? And most wine clubs, like Good Som is not good because of what other wine clubs aren't. But some of the impetus behind starting it was most subscription wine clubs where don't let a wine snob, I'm pointing to myself now, fool you into spending more than $50 on 12 bottles of wine because all wine is cheap and the stuff that they put out is garbage. Good Som is, where do you go to continue your wine journey with somebody who's been doing this for the better part of 3 decades? Where you get the experience, the discovery, the community, and the lifestyle. When you go to the Good Som website, there's a whole video that explains all this. But yeah, as a gift to your listeners, anybody who wants to join Good Som, I will give you a secret skip the waitlist link. There are some states we can't ship to. So for those of you that are listening in Texas, I'm really sorry. Can't do that. Illinois
Sad.
can't do that yet. We're working on it. But for
Okay.
now, yeah, honestly, by the time this podcast comes out, maybe we will have that solved. But yeah, but really, really happy to do that. So
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. And that's very exciting. I definitely recommend for folks. And yeah, I think it's a good way to put it of like, yes, you are going to pay more for the wine. It's at a higher price point. But when you're in that point in your wine journey where you're like, I do want to pay more for quality, interesting, but still good wine. And basically getting to like drink as a sommelier is drinking, essentially, is how I kind of think of it.
yeah. And I'm not intending to turn this into a pitch for Good Som, but the value proposition of Good Som is the curation discovery. But it's also like most wine clubs are like, thanks for your money, here's a box of alcohol. Good Som starts when you get your box. I have professionally produced videos, like 20-minute videos on the theme and the wines, little 90-second videos on each wine. So if you're just like, I'm opening this tonight and I want to drink it, what do I need to know about it? That you get to watch on your times. We do a live Ask Me Anything and tasting every month. But the layers in are like, if you're a member of Good Som, I unlock the wine world like I get. So I have some members that are going to Tuscany this week. And I have opened the doors to wineries that aren't open to the public, like Sassicaia, Ornellaia, Maceto, like major wineries not open to the public, major waitlist stuff. They're getting VIP experiences and treatment. As a member of Good Som, I kind of give you access to like, you get to live the world the way I do. But the other cool thing about Good Som is it's 5 bottles on the theme, but you get a 6th thing. And the 5 bottles will always aggregate to being pretty much what your subscription costs. The 6th thing is a sample of something I love in my life, not necessarily even alcohol or alcohol adjacent. And if I can organize a discount for my members for you to buy it directly from them, then by all means, then I give you those codes as well. So right now, Good Som members have about 30 different discount codes for all sorts of products, from wine suitcases to vanilla beans to coffee to olive oil to Lillet to Fernet, like whatever. But also, I randomly put in the golden ticket bottle. It's some like super high value bottle that goes into multiple people's boxes every month. So as an example, I generally don't publish the themes of Good Som, but I'll give you an example. Last year, I did a theme called Drink Like the Medici. It was a bunch of super rare high-end Italian wines. Every box had about $590 of wine in it. The cost of the box is only $315. Everyone got about almost $600 worth of wine, but for the 6 people that got golden tickets, they got an $850 bottle on top of it. So those people alone got $1,500 of wine that month. So yes, Good Som is expensive. There's no way around it, but it's supposed to be. But you get so much more than just the wine. But even the wine itself is usually way more than what you paid for your subscription. So that is my quick pitch on Good Som, even though I was not coming on your pod to sell my
Yeah,
wine club.
no, I mean, that's what we're here for too. We want to hear what you're doing. And everybody who's listening to this is like, okay, how can I drink wine that Erik recommends? Like, that is exactly what people want. So I love it. All right.
I should probably mention that my members also get a standing 10% off at seller.com. Everything they sell, wine, spirits, beer, bitters, whatever. So that's another benefit for my wine clubs. And then seller.com ships nationally. So
Awesome. Cool. Well, yeah, for anybody listening, we will put all the information in the show notes so you can go check that out. Okay. We are at the very end of this. And this is what I call my speed round. It doesn't mean you have to like answer as fast as possible. It's more like these questions probably have multiple answers. And I'm just wanting like the first thing that comes to your brain is kind of what we're going for. So the first question, what is your favorite wine at the moment?
Riesling. Everything happens for a Riesling. Riesling in all its forms, sweet, dry, everything in between.
Favorite place for Riesling? This is kind of a bonus question because I'm curious. Like, where's your favorite Riesling or some of your favorite Rieslings from?
Why do you have to make me have favorites? Germany and Washington State, top of list. But I'm a fan of great wine made well. So really anywhere. So yeah, Germany, Washington, Austria, Australia, Alsace. Yeah,
No, that
anywhere
works.
made well.
Okay, how about a go-to bottle of wine to bring to a dinner party or to share with friends?
You can't go wrong with Beaujolais. Beaujolais is the most popular wine consumed in the brasseries and bistros of France. Not Champagne, not Bordeaux, not Burgundy. Well, Beaujolais is technically Burgundy. Not Rhone, it's Beaujolais. Go for one of the crus, one of the 10 sub-regions. But yeah, absolutely. A cru of Beaujolais at its most expensive retail will cost you 25 to $50. And I promise you, it's the most food-friendly wine. Meat, fish, seafood, what have you, it goes. And also, when you're buying wine, retail or restaurant, I'm sorry, I'm diverting from your speed round for a minute.
You're good.
Divide by five always. There's five standard glasses in a bottle of wine, which means a $50 bottle is only $10 a glass. A $28 or $25 bottle is only $5 a glass. A $100 bottle is only $20 a glass. So let that be your guide when you're buying wine.
Yes, I love it. And for the Beaujolais, just for folks, the cru for a Beaujolais, it won't often say Beaujolais on it. If it is a cru wine, it says the name of the cru. So if you want to look for those, one of the top recommendations is go to the wine shop and ask them for a Beaujolais cru. And we're saying cru is CRU. Or you can look up online what are the name of the crus and then start looking for that name of the cru will be on the bottle, just for folks looking for that.
So one of the things I developed, because I'm also an educator for Beaujolais, is the 10 crus. Every somm has to like, oh, what are the 10 crus of Beaujolais? But what I did is an alliterative, so one word to describe each cru in its most basic form. For those of you that don't understand Beaujolais, if you want it, I can do it real quick.
Yeah, go for it. I love this.
So Morgon is massive, Moulin Avant is monstrous, Saint Amour is savory, Fleury is floral, low-hanging fruit because fleury means flowers, Bruy and Côte de Bruy is bouncy, Chiroube is chewy, Chenin is crunchy, Renier is regal. That's 8. Who am I forgetting? Oh, well, Bruy and Côte de Bruy count as 2. That's 9. I'm missing one. Shoot, who did I not mention? Well, there's one more.
That's all right. I think that's great. You were
nine of 10.
We didn't say there was going to be a pop quiz at the end of this, so
Yeah. Digging deep into the annals of Somme knowledge.
No, I love it.
9 of 10 ain't bad, but it's gonna drive me nuts if I don't remember the last one. But yeah, let's go on. I want to hold you up.
No worries.
Juliana. How can I forget Juliana? Juliana is juicy.
Okay. I love it. And I'm also going to now re-listen to that part and write all that down for my next time going wine shopping, because that is such a great way to think about all these different types of wine or types of Beaujolais.
I'll give you a link to a video I filmed about that includes those. It's kind of done in the style of an aircraft safety video, and you can put that in your show notes as well. And it's all about Beaujolais in like 3 minutes, and it's got the alliteratives in there too.
I love it. Cool. Okay. All right. So now we're going to go to like favorite wine region or most memorable wine region that you visited.
Israel, hands down, no question. Israel is the origin of wine. We have, I'm sorry, Georgia, the country. For a long time, it was thought to be Georgia. We now have archaeological records and evidence that it's about 11,000 years ago as the first evidence of purposeful viticulture, and the origins of Vitis vinifera are in what is now known as Israel. It was known as Judea back then, and the Levant, so by extension up into Lebanon. But there also is evidence that Georgia also had a little bit of that going on further back than the 8,000 years that they have records of. But yeah, Israel is geopolitically the Middle East, but is climatically the Eastern Mediterranean, and it's such an incredible place with the most amazing Mediterranean varieties. And what makes it really special, we talked about millennials and Gen Z caring about the story more than the wine sometimes. There are now 9 varieties that have been identified as biblical era varieties. So you can drink, and many of them are exported to the US, you can drink wines made from the same grapes that made the wine that Jesus drank, that Moses drank, that Noah drank. Pick a biblical figure. Those same grapes, Merawi, Bituni, Hamdani, Jabali, those same grapes, you can actually drink wines from the time of the Old Testament, and nowhere else can say that.
Okay, that's cool. All right. So now we're going to do the flip side. What's a wine region you haven't been to yet that you'd like to visit?
That is a great question, because I've been to so many wine
I was just going to say that one might be even harder.
You know what? I haven't been to Texas wine country. I've been to Texas. That would be something that's really, really interesting. I haven't really been to the southwest of France. I mean, I've been through it. That would be a region I'd love to explore a little bit more. I'm like racking my brains for wine regions I really haven't explored. I'll be honest. I mean, I've been to Burgundy once, so I'd love to go back, or twice.
Yeah,
love to go back and do a deeper dive. Oh, I've never been to the left bank of Bordeaux except for driving through it. So I've done the right bank, but not the left bank. Yeah, I mean, I'm an equal opportunity consumer of wine regions.
You're like, pretty much anywhere that gives me an opportunity, I'm down. I love it. Okay, last question. If you were given $1,000 to spend on wine, you had to spend it on wine, you couldn't save it, you couldn't do anything else with it, what would you buy? So kind of thinking about, like, a lot of people have answered this as either like they'll go for the big ones, and just get a bottle or two, or other folks who just go to the wine shop and, fill a case. What are you doing with $1,000 if you have to buy wine?
That's easy. I'd buy a half case of Cru Beaujolais, a half case of Vino Verde, a half case of some incredible Washington State Riesling, a half case of Etna Bianco or Grillo or Catarado or something from Sicily, a half case of something delicious from Friuli, like a Malvasia-based blend or Friulano. And then I'd still have like $150 left to take you to dinner.
I love it. Perfect answer. Awesome. Well, that is the end. We definitely went over on time. Thanks for sticking around with me. But thank you so much for joining. This has been such a fascinating conversation, and I've learned so much.
Oh, you're most welcome. I really enjoyed too. Sorry, I don't give short answers, but we covered a lot of ground. I'll give you all the information for the show notes for anyone who wants to join Good Psalm or watch the Bosley video or any of that stuff. And really, really, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Cheers. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Cork and Fizz Guide to Wine podcast. Be sure to go follow Erik on Instagram. His handle is at Erik, ERIK 4, the number 4, wine, at Erik4wine. And check out his wine club, Good Psalm, which you have exclusive access to skip the wait list of by going to goodpsalm.com/secret. And of course, be on the lookout for his new delicious canned cocktails with Amalfi Beverage Company. If you love this episode as much as I did, you know what to do. Share it with another wine lover. Send me a message. Let me know what you think about the wine tariffs and did we have the right idea? Do you have more questions? And of course, rate this and leave a review. In next week's episode, we're going to be talking about wine additives. Like, what can be added to your wine? And should you be concerned? And how can you tell if anything's been added? We'll cover all of those in the next episode. Thanks again for listening. And if you want to learn more about wine, come follow me at Cork and Fizz on Instagram. And if you're interested in exploring new wines and joining an incredible community of wine lovers, be sure to sign up for my virtual tasting club, The Cork Crew. Head to thecorkcrew.com, that is thecorkcrew.com, to learn more and use code WINESPECIAL. No spaces, just 2 words combined, WINE SPECIAL, to get your first 2 months for just $8 a month. Cheers!